Hi, I'm Heather, a certified personal trainer, yoga instructor, and have my BSN in exercise science and behavioral coaching from Arizona State University. I currently live in Oregon with my 3 kids, who I will reference often.
And I'm Britt, a former Division I collegiate athlete turned recreational triathlete and fitness instructor. I have a degree in exercise biology from UC Davis, and I currently live in Belgium with my husband and 4 kids.
Together, we're best friends wanting to bring the world of health and fitness back to a more grounded and balanced place that's accessible to everyone.
Each episode, we're going to talk about ways to live out a well-rounded and healthy life that makes sense in today's modern, busy world. We'll cover topics related to exercise, nutrition, mindset, mental health, competition, and so much more.
So sit back, sign up, and let's get ready to
race to wellness.
I just did the deep cleaning on all my yoga clothes this week. It was where they just get that
gross.
Gross. It was disgusting. Yeah, I was like, oh god. When was the last time I did this? Because I'm like,
I've ever done it.
The last 2 months of pregnancy, I was like, there's no way I'm kneeling down by the bathtub. And no, it's not happening. But it was like, well, and just the type of material that exercise clothes are. And then even I have some tops from Express and stuff that they just hold on to scent. And so, I can't stand that. I have to smell good. I'm kind of obsessed about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I don't think I've ever done that to my clothes. Done the actual soak them all in the bathtub with this, because you get a special detergent-y soap or something, right? Or do you use vinegar?
I just use vinegar. I use vinegar. Yeah. Because it's
I know they make
cheap.
one,
it's super cheap. Yeah. I'm no, I just toss it in with a cup of vinegar in half a bathtub of hot water, super, super hot water.
Yeah.
Swirl it around. And then I let it sit until, I don't know, probably half an hour or so. And then immediately put it in the wash.
And then you drain the gross black water.
Gross. Yeah. It was dingy brown. I'm oh God.
I am curious though, how much of that might be the dye coming out of our clothes as well.
Yeah. Versus
or if it's all just
nasty
dirt and gross
sweat,
sweat and skin cells and
yeah, so gross. Yeah. Now we can do, oh my gosh, Northwest Surrogacy Center sent a small but nice poster, they said, and they had to pay US Customs $20 to get it.
Yeah.
I was that's not a gift. How annoying is that?
That's what I was telling you about whatever you sent me. I'd still probably have to pay some sort of import tax on
it. Yeah, no. Yeah. Don't pay that. Hopefully not from Amazon. Hopefully you don't have to.
It'll be a surprise. Well, if it's arriving on Friday, then it's coming from over here because
it says
that date.
No, it says shipped with UPSN. Oh, maybe UPS Netherlands. I don't know. The lady at first shipping place that I went to, she was so funny. Yeah. She was like, "What's the postal code?" And I was like, "Girl, I don't even know what half of the words in that address are." I don't know. She's like, "Let me Google it." I'm like, "Okay, cool." I don't know.
I don't know. There's only 2 numbers on here.
Right? I'm like, it's probably one of those.
And it's also formatted differently because the postal code is not in the same spot that it is American addresses.
Yeah.
So this is what Heather sent me last night, and I was dying hearing these.
Okay, so funny story. I ordered a birthday present on Etsy. It's really cute, really whatever. And I had it shipped to my house so that I could ship it to you because it was from Etsy, and they don't do international shipping from Etsy. So it came to my house today. I went down to ship it, and it's $400 to ship it to you. So I was like, let's do that. So I ordered something random. It's very similar to the Etsy one that's coming to your house. It'll be there on the 3rd for your birthday. Happy birthday. And then I will bring you the actual gift set in whenever I come to see you this year. I was dying. Well, and my youngest looked at me like, "Why are we leaving so fast?" I was like, "Sorry, dude."
Why
do you still have the box? Right? He's like, "Why do you still have the box?" And I was like, "It didn't work." And he was like, "What do you mean it didn't work?"
It didn't work.
It didn't work. We have to leave. We have to go now. I don't know what's happening. Oh my gosh.
My response back to you probably took me a couple minutes of me trying to breathe because I was laughing so hard.
Yeah.
Can't.
So then she sends me this after I respond back.
I was dying when I got there, and I like walked up to the counter to ship it, and then the lady goes, "Oh," she's like, "We're not gonna be the cheapest," and I was like, "Well, what does that mean?" She like laughed, and then she was like, "It's gonna cost this much money," and I was like, "Holy shit!" And she's like, "Go to DHL, but it's all the way in Portland," and I'm like, "Okay." So then I was planning to go down there, but then you can go on their website and get a quote, and so I got a quote, and it's literally $400, and I was like, the lady at the first shop, she was like, "You could just order it on Amazon and it's like $20 to ship it." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna do that option." So yay, hopefully you like it, and then I'll bring you one.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I'm like, for $400, I could buy a plane ticket and come see you for twice that. Like, and I'll just bring it on the plane.
It.
Yeah. I'm like, that's the option I'm gonna go with if I'm spending $400. Yep.
Its own like seat on the airplane, buckled in, like.
Yeah. Ridiculous. I can't.
It's so funny.
My life in a nutshell. If I had any sort of anxiety issues at all, I feel like my life would be so much more complicated because just like odd things happen, and I'm like, it's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Don't
Why
worry.
do we still have the box? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I love it. Oh
So,
okay.
Recap. This week on the podcast, we are talking about starting up a fitness routine. What? Last week we discussed in episode 3. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm thinking that I will have a card right here, clicked right here, episode 3. But last week we talked about finding your why and your motivation for wanting to start a fitness routine. So this week we are going to talk about how to start that fitness routine, some barriers you might come across, and some challenges, and some solutions and some tools for you to kind of overcome those barriers.
Mm-hmm. I like it. This is one of the big things that I work on with people, is overcoming barriers to starting a fitness routine. I actually love it because one of the things that I find is that if somebody can come up with a reason not to do something, they can also come up with a reason to do something. And it tells me that they're invested. If they're invested enough in what they're thinking of doing, that they're coming up with reasons not to do it, or things that could come like get in the way, that tells me that they actually are invested in whatever their goal is.
Just a recap of finding that why and that motivation. We want to make sure that any sort of reason for starting this fitness routine is coming from something internally, some sort of intrinsic value that you have that you can attach now to that fitness routine. You're going to be so much more successful if you ground yourself in an intrinsic reason for wanting to start that routine than you are for anything external.
Yeah. Finding that motivation coming from an internal place, like it can be something that can be external. So thinking about, if you're thinking about physical changes that you want to happen in your body, that is an external reason for doing something. But if the reason that you're wanting to look better on the outside is having to do with confidence or anything like that, that is an intrinsic, that's an internal motivation for you, not an extrinsic, which would be, I want to look better because someone else told me that I should look a certain way.
So what are people coming to you about when they say, I want to start lifting weights, or I want to start getting into fitness? What are things that they're kind of talking to you and mentioning?
As far as barriers go, or just in general having to do
just
with
why they want to start, and like,
oh, gotcha,
where they're at in their mind, their journey, or things like that.
Yeah. A lot of people right now are because of the new year, they have a New Year's resolution, and they're wanting to change the way that they feel. They want to be healthier. Some clients that I have are dealing with some sort of chronic illness, and they're wanting to overcome that in some way, or at least feel better in their body, even though they're dealing with that. A lot of people want to have more energy. They feel just tired and run down all the time. So they're wanting to work out and feel better in their body. Some of my clients want like the mental benefits of working out. So they have an understanding that their mental health is much better when they're consistent about going to the gym or doing an exercise routine or eating better for their body, that kind of stuff. So they're really interested in changing that. There's so many different things. I'm like, so going back to the energy portion. So when people want to have more energy in their body, it's really interesting. Or thinking about mental health and mental illness, that kind of stuff. I suggest a lot of times for people to do any sort of exercise, even if it's just walking, if it's getting up and down off the couch a couple of times, doing some stair steps on their front porch, whatever it might be, but literally like changing the energy in your body. A lot of times people will become like depressed or have anxiety about something, and they feel like stuck in their body because of that. So you feel stuck in this depressed state. And sometimes all it takes is just getting up off of the couch for 5 minutes, walking around your house, like doing some sort of physical activity to literally change the energy in your body, increase your heart rate, get your blood flowing, that kind of stuff. And that simple adjustment can help overcome some of those mental health barriers.
I notice that all the time with myself when, because I generally run a little after lunchtime. And so if it's cold out or if it's kind of rainy or a little misty out in the air, I will be sitting on my couch looking outside and kind of see that weather. And if I don't get up and start kind of moving around, I find it so much more of a struggle to actually get moving than I am if I just don't sit down on the couch at that time and I'm just kind of doing stuff around, like maybe doing some sort of chore or whatever, like just
doing something.
That barrier of changing that energy.
Yeah. I found for me, one of the things like key drivers in if I'm going to be successful in a day is if I take my shoes off. The moment that I take my shoes off, I am done. Like, that's what I've realized is that if I come home from doing like dropping my kids off at school, if I take my shoes off when I get home, I don't then do any housework. I just kind of like lounge around and do like I watch TV or I ding around on my phone, that kind of stuff. But I'm not likely to put my shoes back on unless there's like an externally motivated reason. So like having to go pick my kids up, I'll put my shoes back on to go pick them up from school. But if I just keep my shoes on from the time that I get up in the morning and through like being in my house, going out, it keeps me motivated to do activities because it like is a signal for my brain that I'm not done doing activities for the day.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very odd.
What if you had like house shoes? Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's something about like the act of taking my shoes off that it's that trigger for me that I'm like, I'm done. And then I get my tea and I eat my snacks on my bed or whatever it might be, which is fine. For me, it's actually a really good thing. So if I am needing a rest day or needing a moment, then I come home and immediately take my shoes off. So that's an indicator for me that like, okay, we're doing rest today. It's important and it's helpful.
Yeah. That's so interesting how that's a trigger for you.
The other barrier for me is like, if I come back to my house, a lot of times my physical environment in my house will kind of impede whatever goals I have for the day. So I will, rather than doing work when I'm in my house, I end up doing like housework or doing the dishes or the laundry or even sitting down and reading a book or like being on my phone, because my house is like such a like comfortable environment for me. I've created that space where I really enjoy being there and just being restful and relaxed in my space. So when I'm thinking about if I have a lot to accomplish, especially around like physical goals or like work related stuff, anything like that, I find that being outside of my house is much more motivating for me. And so kind of to tie it in with doing like creating a fitness routine or starting a fitness routine is being aware of that and moving myself outside of my home environment when I'm creating those plans and when I'm coming up with that motivation. Going to a spot. So there's like a coffee shop, you know it, Insomnia. I love going to Insomnia. There's so many people in and out of the environment. Are you wearing a sweater? Yeah.
I'm wearing a sweatshirt right now.
That's so awesome. Yeah. So it's one of my favorite places to go because there's so much traffic in and out of the space, but there's also like such a good flow to the environment that there's not really disruptions. So like there's always a buzz and an energy that's happening in the space, but there's also like not somebody coming up and bumping into me or talking to me or something like that, like I would have at like Starbucks. And so putting myself in that environment where I feel really motivated, that's when I create my plans and when I do the most work for my business, that kind of stuff. And I mean, even fitness and exercise and diet related, like I do all of my meal planning in that sort of environment, or I do anything that's really important to me. I'm going to go to that space to create my plan.
That makes a lot of sense too. I know that, and I'm not trying to say work out from home is bad, because I work out from home a lot.
Right. I was like, but my weights are within arm reach of my desk.
I can see them. They're over there.
They're over there.
But if you are distracted by other things easily, such as you have dishes to do, is that going to distract you from you sitting down and doing your workout at home? Or do you need to physically remove yourself from that environment and actually invest in a gym membership? And even though you have the equipment, are you going to get the workout done at the gym versus at home?
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about before, like, so one of my motivations is doing things for other people. So thinking about doing things for my kids or my parents or any of my clients, that sort of thing. So when I'm in my physical home environment, I'm always going to prioritize the tasks that impact other people. So I'm always going to prioritize the task that of doing the dishes so that they're ready to go when the kids come home and I can make snacks, or doing the laundry so that they have clean clothes. I'm always going to prioritize those sorts of tasks over my own personal tasks of working out. And so there's a mental shift. One of the things that I do in behavioral coaching is shifting somebody's mindset around that and making the task, doing the exercise or changing the diet or whatever behavior you're wanting to change, making it so that you are prioritizing in that way for other people. So understanding that I am a better person mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all of those things. I'm a better person for the people in my life when I exercise regularly, when I feed my body nutrition and fuel that it needs to keep going every day. But for me, I have to shift it so that I'm doing it for somebody else and not just doing it for myself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, honestly.
Well, and it goes back to that wellness vision, right? So we talked through last episode, we talked through creating a wellness vision for your life and understanding what motivates you, what your strengths are in order to create a fitness routine around that. So understanding, so going back to those key drivers for you, if it is your community, if it is looking good, whatever it is, understanding those deep rooted motivations for yourself in order to find success in your fitness routine. I think that's huge.
Maybe we should pretend like we are going to build our own type of fitness routine. Where should I go? Where do I start with? What is the first thing I should do?
Yeah. The thing that I do when I'm starting to kind of create a plan for myself specifically is I like to think through anything that's going to be a barrier to me being successful. And I walk myself through every step of that. It sounds like a really negative mindset, but it's not. So it's incredibly empowering when you think through everything that could go wrong when you're setting out to do an exercise plan. And then you come up against those things and you're like, I already thought through 5 solutions to this problem. It's a really like powerful, like, oh, I can do this because I thought through what could go wrong. Here we are in that moment, and I get to make a choice and continue on. So thinking about, like, for me, I hate being cold. So when I think about going to the gym that's external to my house, if it's cold outside, a barrier for me is going to be getting through that cold into the car. And so planning ahead, I'm going to wear an extra layer. I'm going to wear a super cozy jacket that really makes me feel comfortable and warm. I'm going to make my cup of tea before I walk out the door. It's going to keep me warm as I'm getting in my car, like thinking through all those steps. And then I'm going to start the car. My car has an app, so I can start the car 15 minutes early and my car is warming up. It's a really nice
fancy
feature, but that's extra fancy. I've never had a car like that before, so it's a learning curve actually to have that, but thinking through those things of like, okay, so warmth for me is important, so that's going to be my motivating factor. So when I run into a super cold morning, or there's frost on my windshield, or whatever those barriers of cold are, I've already thought through how I'm going to overcome them, and then I'm going to go. I'm still going to make it to the gym, and even if I'm cold along the way for a few minutes, like I still have found success in walking out the door in a cozy jacket.
Nice. I have that same barrier of being cold, except it's that I am already cold. If I am already cold, there's the barrier. So I cannot let myself get cold when I'm in my house somehow. Even if it's 30 degrees outside, if I'm perfectly comfortable, I can put on my warm clothes and go outside and go run. But if I'm kind of like, oh, I need a blanket to sit here because I'm a little cold. Nope, not going. And I've learned that I need to warm up inside. Like if I'm like, oh, I need to go for a run in 20 minutes because that's when I've scheduled my run. I've learned, okay, you're cold right now. Why don't we get up and walk around? Just start pacing even just in the room. And then, okay, why don't you do some like dynamic stretching, some hip rolls, like just start to move and get the blood rolling, like we've mentioned earlier, of changing the energy. It's that same thing. The energy.
Yeah, I love that. So why don't we talk through some other barriers that can come up for people, how we would overcome them?
I like it.
So a big one that I hear is, I don't have enough time. That's the phrase. I don't have enough time to go to the gym. Have you run into that? You don't have enough time in your schedule, and what do you feel like?
All the time. That? And I feel like it's a big one on social media as well. I always see the posts that are, we have the same 24 hours in the day. It's just how you use your time. Things like that. It's a huge one for people.
So when I'm thinking about time, I think about prioritizing tasks, right? So we have our main things in our life. So depending on what your personal situation is, maybe you have a job. You should have a job probably, but maybe you have a job that takes up a lot of your time. Maybe you have kids, or you have a social life that's expansive. Maybe you have extra activities. Maybe you're part of a school board, or maybe you're doing some sort of government position. Maybe you're in a political office. Maybe you volunteer a lot. There's so many different things that take up time in our lives. So those are the big ones. So I start looking at those and how we want to prioritize them in our daily life. So you have to go to your job so that you make money to pay for your house, that kind of stuff. But then I also like to look at the smaller things that impact things in your life and where you might be able to find time. So things like, how much time do you spend on your cell phone? How much TV are you watching in a week? How much time are you spending at the grocery store? How much time are you spending socializing with people? All these different little things. And then tasks like, how often are you stopping at a coffee shop in the morning to get your coffee on your way to work? Is there time that can be reallocated from those other tasks or reprioritized so that you're able to come up with the time throughout the week to do your fitness?
Yeah. I also, when I think about that, I like to look at, are there things that you can combine together? So if you have an extensive social life and you want to make time for seeing your friends, maybe you invite them to a workout with you, and then you get to go see your friend and work out at the same time. But you can also, like, if you need to spend time with family or kids, that's another one. You can invite them on your exercise with you. Maybe you need to go for a walk and family come along with. Had to put all the kids in the stroller, take the dog out. I've mentioned that previously a motivator for me to go running was, I needed to walk my dog. 2 birds, 1 stone. Got to walk him anyways. Might as well turn that into my workout for the day.
Yep. Well, and like my kids love doing yoga with me. They love being part of my fitness routine and picking up weights and doing it with me and learning the form. They love that. They soak it up. And then like I go specifically during the summertime, because again, I am not a happy camper in the cold, but during the summertime, I go on walks with my mom. It's one of my favorite things actually, is on Thursday afternoons, we go walk a couple miles and we go get sushi together. And it's, I'm super motivated by that. I love going on those walks. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things. but finding a way for that it works for you. So going back to the wellness vision and what you prioritize in your life, and then having that understanding to create the plan so that you'll be successful in it.
Yeah. Speaking of family and kids, another big barrier are children, unfortunately. And who's going to watch them when you go to the gym or when you go to your fitness class or whatever it is?
Yeah. For me, so I have 3 kids, and I learned when I was married, I learned that I had to go to the gym before my then husband had to go to work, and before the kids were going to be awake. So prioritizing that for me meant that I was going to the gym at 4:00 in the morning, because the wake up time for my ex-husband was 6 in the morning. And so I had to have been done at the gym, home, transitioned to ready to take care of the kids by that time. It's a difficult one. And I know that there are some gyms that have childcare options that are available, and that's really nice if people have it available to them. I know that that does cost money, which is another barrier that can come in for people, is the cost of it. Okay. But yeah, thinking about childcare, if you have friends or family members, if they're in school, doing your workout during a time when they're in school is super helpful. I know that that's something that I'm planning to do. So when I get back to working out in a couple of weeks, I am prioritizing doing my workout. As soon as I drop them off, I'm already in the car. I will have my gym clothes on, and off I will go to the gym as soon as I'm able.
Especially if you have the ability to have someone else watch them for you, and you don't have to spend the extra funds for it. Yeah, exactly. Because that can get costly. I know that here, I've noticed that a lot of fitness classes take place between the hours of like 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Yeah. And I finally figured out why. It's because one of the spouses or whoever is home watching the kids, and they've now gone to bed, and you can now go to your once a week gym class.
Yeah, definitely. So another barrier that comes up is fear. There's fear around a lot of different things. One of the reasons that people reach out to me as a personal trainer is that they are afraid of going to the gym because of kind of the gym environment that's created, especially if people are very new, very beginner, and they don't know how to do weightlifting. Maybe they're not clear on some of the techniques, that kind of stuff. Fear is a huge thing, comes up in that sort of environment. And so overcoming that barrier of fear really just has to do with creating an understanding for people, is what I found. As soon as you start to have the knowledge, people become much more comfortable in that environment. And so having an understanding of what the work is that you're doing, what muscles you're prioritizing, how to use the gym equipment, that kind of stuff, that really, really helps.
Also, I feel like another big one in that is just you feel like you might stick out because you might be new at that gym, or you might be new in general at your fitness routine. And you'll feel like people are just watching you constantly.
That feeling is super overwhelming, especially if you are very overweight. You already feel like you stand out in society and in culture because of the weight that you carry. And so then going to an environment where there are more fit people than you, putting yourself in that environment can be really, really hard. And you feel like you stand out. And I want you to know, people that are in that experience, it's so empowering to go, like to overcome that fear and go, like do it afraid. That's what I want the message to be, is do it afraid.
Especially, I know from experience that I may think that somebody is staring at me, and all of a sudden I'll realize they didn't even realize I was even in the room. Like, and I see that I'm privileged enough I'm not overweight, and I don't have the stigma of somebody's watching me because I'm a fat person type thing working out. But I'm also a woman, and I'm a woman who lifts weights. And so I'm generally one of the only females in that area at a lot of gyms. And so I feel like there's eyes on me at all times, but I don't think half the people see me.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of live on the opposite side of that, because as a personal trainer, I'm always watching people for safety reasons. I feel like I'm always keeping that eye on people. And so I feel like just making sure that people are comfortable in that environment. So if I notice something is going on with somebody around weightlifting, most of the time, honestly, what I'm seeing, aside from looking at people to make sure that their form is correct and that they're not going to injure themselves, I'm really always looking for new ways to work out, new moves or things that I think are cool or that I can incorporate in my own routine or in a routine for somebody else. Because honestly, like when you think about the different workouts that are available, it's like you have back and shoulders, you have biceps and triceps, you have your chest, then you have your lower body. There's not a whole lot of different movements. Like our body extends and it contracts. And so coming up with something that's new and interesting and fun in that environment, I'm always looking for something new to do. That's part of why like Instagram and TikTok and all those kinds of things where people are posting their workouts, that's why they're so successful, is because people are watching and they're like, that's a really cool routine. I never would have thought to put those two muscles together or whatever it is. So that's my side of it from being a PT in the gym, is that I'm always watching people for that. And I'm super impressed by people. Like, whoa, you can lift that much weight. Like, that's so cool. You did so many reps and I'm blown away. And you aren't sweating at all. Like, or because as soon as I start lifting one single weight, I'm like red in the face and I'm just like, look like hulked out or something. It's crazy. And
fell in the
like,
pool.
so if other people, right? And so I'm like, so other people who like are working out really hard and looking good, I'm like, gosh darn it, like I want to look that good while I work out and not just like sweating, dying.
I'm one of those people who doesn't necessarily look like they're sweating a lot. Like my face is red and like I'm not cute when I work out. Like there are faces that get made.
Yes.
And half my makeup, if I was wearing it earlier, it's on my shirt down here because I have done this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's beautiful. So good. Cool. Another barrier might be overcommitting and overscheduling yourself. So kind of going back to the time that we talked about in the beginning. But also like when you're coming up with a fitness routine, being aware of your own personal capabilities and not committing yourself to doing 2 hours of workout 6 days a week. If you're not going to be motivated to do that continuously. So maybe scheduling yourself for a small session. I know that I was listening recently, I think it was Terry Crews was talking about when he starts working out or gets back into working out, or when he's talking to other people, he encourages them to spend the first 2 weeks of going to the gym literally walking in, scanning in, and then walking near the weights, walking near the equipment, like not even picking them up or touching them, but like having it be like, I think he called it a spa experience, where you just spend time in that space, get yourself used to walking around and being present in that space before you even pick up a weight or try anything. Just spend 2 weeks trying it out, trying that walk out, seeing how that works. But yeah, going back to not overcommitting yourself to a workout routine that you're not going to be able to stick to.
Yeah. And that kind of flows into the topic of kind of burnout. We started way too fast, too quickly. We tried to do too much, and now we are exhausted from that effort.
Yeah, because building muscle on our bodies or losing fat from our bodies, that takes a toll. Like not only mentally are you spending more time thinking about your fitness routine, what you're eating, all of that kind of stuff, which has mental fatigue associated with it, but you're literally physically changing your body. And that is fatiguing, and you can burn out really quickly on that. And we've talked about with fitness routines about the idea of the law of progression, about not moving so quickly into a fitness routine that your muscles are sore constantly, that you're having to overcome that, but really taking your time step by step, moving yourself in the direction of a fitness routine. Spending a couple of weeks, just like I said with the Terry Crews thing, but like just getting used to it before you jump in. And not burning yourself out.
Even if you do jump in and you start, just starting them out in smaller durations. So like maybe instead of doing an hour workout, you're only doing a 30-minute workout. And knowing that that's okay, because you're setting the foundation of I'm going consistently every day instead of I need to burn 400 calories or whatever your goal ultimately wants to be. Setting the foundation and getting the habit in of just doing the routine every day or every other day or whatever your time commitment is for your fitness routine, as opposed to, oh, well, for this to matter, And for this to actually make a difference, I need to have burned X amount of calories today because I ate Y amount of calories. Hate to break it to you, but you might not find the best results that way.
Well, and remembering that food is fuel and our nutrition is important. And so a lot of times what I see with people when they're starting a fitness routine is that they're incrementally increasing by a large amount, the amount of exercise that they're doing in a week. So like I said, something like 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, that's 12 hours a week that you're spending in the gym. And going from no exercise, no fitness routine, to going to that much. And then oftentimes what we see is a decrease on the other side of it, where people are also at the same time cutting the amount of calories that they're eating, cutting their nutrition, cutting their fuel. And so those two things together, all of a sudden you crash and burn. You don't have enough energy to continue that routine. And so you just fail. And that it's not a good feeling in the moment of like, I cannot physically get up and go to the gym anymore. I don't have the energy for it. But also setting yourself up for that failure is really, really hard.
You mentioned something there about how you're now going to the gym like 12 hours a week. If you are a complete beginner, 12 hours a week sounds like a massive commitment. If you've never had this routine before, you might find it now difficult to schedule out 12 hours into your life. Well, what we were talking about just before, overcommitting and overscheduling, but also where do you find time to do all the other things you're doing? So building it in incrementally in those small amounts, those 30-minute increments, and then maybe, you can move this to another time as well. And now you have 45 minutes or now you have an hour. Yeah. It'll be a much easier success for you.
Yeah. Well, and you might find like if as you're starting a fitness routine and you're starting just going 20 or 30 minutes to the gym, you might find that you actually enjoy it. I know. Yeah. But people who start getting in, like people who end up being kind of gym rats and they love it, like they reprioritize other things in their life so that they have the space and the time for it. And so starting out with that 20 or 30 minutes, really getting to a place where you're enjoying the workout or at least not hating it. Then you might be willing to reprioritize some things in your life. So like for me, for example, one of the things that I reprioritize in my life is that I really love going grocery shopping, like going to the grocery store. I love the meal planning portion of it, all of that. But I also love going to the store and picking out the items that I'm going to be cooking that week, but understanding that that takes time. It takes like, I usually spend an hour, maybe an hour and a half in the grocery store, not to mention the time prepping for that. And so using what's available. So thinking about like, I use ClickList with Fred Meyer. And I know that a lot of people do like delivery services or doing where they collect all the groceries for you and you literally just have to drive and pick it up. And oftentimes I will do that. So I'll sit down, I'll do my list, I'll enter the order, and it's being prepared. And I go to the gym instead of like, so I use that time that I would have spent in the grocery store. I use that time to go to the gym instead and then pick up my groceries on the way home.
I think the last kind of barrier I want to touch on really quick is like injury, but also if you are someone who has like a lack of mobility or you need to modify things because of whatever your range of motion is or your prior health reasons or your injuries that you maybe are still dealing with or previous injuries, it can be a barrier for people because either you don't have something that you can do easily because maybe you can't go running or you can't squat or whatever it is. And so now you need to figure out what you can do. But you also might not have the knowledge to know how to substitute something.
Yeah. That's a great point. I'm going to shamelessly plug a little bit. So I am a personal trainer and a yoga instructor. But one of the things that I do is that there's a lot of assessments at the beginning when you're starting an exercise plan with me that I check out your mobility and that kind of stuff. And then when we're working together, we do a lot my clients would speak to this actually to adjust any movements that we're doing. And there are substitutions. But again, to Brittany's point of like, if you're doing a fitness routine on your own, you might not know what those substitutions are. So that something is safe for you to do in your body. And so starting out, perhaps working with a personal trainer. I know that a lot of people don't like working with a personal trainer because it's a lot of one-on-one attention. And so, especially if you are somebody who doesn't like being watched, it can be a very uncomfortable situation for you. But I would encourage you in some way to work with a professional. So either doing personal training sessions one-on-one together, or even just doing programming. That's something that I offer, is that I just do programming for people, but it is a tailored experience so that when you're doing the workout, if something doesn't work in your body, if you let me know, hey, I felt a pinch in my shoulder when I was doing an overhead press, I'm like, great, there are 15 other ways to do a press that we can adjust to so that you're not having that pain, and that we can address that and heal that pain in some way. So I would encourage, if you have a personal trainer available to you, a lot of gyms offer it as a free service, that you can meet with a personal trainer. So I would encourage you highly to talk with somebody about that, especially if you have any sort of injuries or impingements that might impact your fitness routine.
Some people might say that meeting with a personal trainer or getting that one-on-one coaching is too expensive for them. There are ways to make it more accessible for you based on your budget. And one that I really loved was when I was teaching fitness, we did small group sessions. So maybe there's 6 people in there doing whatever your session is. You're still going to get a really good tailored workout to you. There's just going to be a few other people there with you. It's not going to be a full class like you might see in the fitness classes, but you'll have 2, maybe 6 people in addition to yourself there with you. And so the cost of that class per person will be a little lower, but the ratio of participants to personal trainer or instructor is so much lower that you're going to get kind of that one-on-one training that you might be seeking.
Yeah, for sure. And you also get the support of the other people, which can be really motivating. It becomes like a little family or like a little community that you're in, and people through like WhatsApp or a group message, something like that, kind of check in with people. And it keeps you a little bit more accountable when you're working in a small group session like that. It's really cool.
Yeah. And you also might get to do different exercises that are like partner exercises that you wouldn't get to do on a one-on-one training.
Yeah. When I was doing Taekwondo consistently, I remember we had like partner stretching. And so there's like where you put your feet together with your partner and then you like pull on each other's arms in order to stretch, to open your hips a little bit more, that kind of stuff. And you can do that like using a wall and slowly pushing your own body closer to it. But there's something about having another person on the other side of it that's like leaning into, and that transfer of energy really can be motivating.
And if the small training is still kind of outside of your budget, group fitness classes are another good place to maybe start, especially if you have a really good instructor or knowledgeable instructor that is able to kind of scan the room to see if somebody has got improper form. They a lot of times will be able to come and give some slight corrections to you, or if they can't come to you to do it, they'll give you cues while we're doing the exercises that make sure that your hips are balanced, or that you're putting equal pressure through your hands while you're doing a push-up, or whatever the exercise is that they see something happening. They should be able to give you some cues and some corrections.
Yeah, agreed. And chances are, if one person is making a mistake in their posture or form, 20 people are doing it.
Whenever we would do plank work, I was constantly having to give the reminder, you need to have your butt down, because you'd see the nice little downward dog starting. No, butts down, and it wasn't just one person that I'm screaming at. It's 6, 8 people all starting to, ooh.
Yep. Keep that booty down.
Exactly. Straight line, shoulders to toes.
Yeah. Well, and especially like thinking back to what we were talking about before, like if there's any fear about going to a personal training session or going into a gym where you're by yourself, being in a group fitness class where there's so many people, you're still going to get some attention, but it's not going to be to the same level of a personal training session or a private session at a gym. Like it's going to be much, much less. It's going to be much more comfortable for you if you don't want to stick out like a sore thumb kind of thing, or if you feel like that's something that's happening. Yeah. And oftentimes, honestly, as an instructor, so So when I'm teaching my yoga classes and I'm giving those cues to people about like butt down, making sure you're engaged through your shoulders or lifting up through your chest, any of that kind of stuff, honestly, it's because my posture or my form is shit. Like, because I'm having to remind myself, like, oh yeah, I'm collapsing through my shoulders or I'm collapsing through my chest. I'm not holding a position like I'm supposed to be. I'm not putting equal pressure in my wrists. I'm looking up in a weird place. Like, so I use my own physical body and how I'm feeling in it and notice those in order to cue other people. So don't feel 100%. Singled out in those group fitness classes.
Yep. Every cycling class that I have ever taught, half of my cues are because of my own form, because I do the entire class on the bike facing you. And 50% of the cues are, oh, I just noticed this in my form. All right, make sure that you're driving your knees up.
Yep. Yes. I love it. Are you breathing? That's my one.
Don't forget to breathe.
Don't forget to breathe. Yeah. So good.
Now that we've tackled some barriers, how are we getting going?
How are we going to do it? How are we going to start this fitness routine?
Oh, she's gone. Now that she's gone, follow us on TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
So some strategies on putting it all together here. So I think the biggest one, and we touched on it already, is taking it slow, making sure that you are building it into your daily life as opposed to building your daily life around it. Because most likely your daily life is already established. It's going to be a lot harder to move, readjust that than it is to put in this new habit. So if you only have 20 minutes on a Tuesday morning and that's the only spot you can do it right now, see if you can add it there and take it slow. And if that time doesn't work for you, is there another time on a Tuesday that works for you? Or do you have to do it on Wednesday? Building it around your daily life as opposed to building daily life around it.
Yeah, especially if you have like any of the barriers, so related to social life or like children, childcare, that kind of stuff, being very aware of those things and saying, okay, my kids are in school from 8 to 2 on Monday through Friday, so I'm going to fit it in there. But you might also have your job that's during that time. And so being very aware of what your regular schedule is, how it's already designed, and then creating the space or finding the space within that routine to fit it in.
And then you got to figure out what you're going to do. Are you going to run? Are you going to cycle? Are you going to go to the gym and lift weights? Is it yoga time? Whatever your activity is, I always recommend it be something that you already like, because you're not going to continue doing something you hate.
Agreed. We've talked about before that I hate running. That is not my jam. Brittany loves it. Have at it, because that's
as much as I want to convert you.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, I always in my mind, we've talked about before, like I always in my mind am like, should I sign up for a race? And I really keep coming back to the reason for that is because I've never like perfectly executed a training plan up to an event. And so I think that for me, that's a goal that I eventually have, is that I would like to perfectly execute. Perfect doesn't exist, but I would like to more perfectly execute a training plan in order to get ready for an endurance event or a race or something like that. But it's not my priority enough for me to let it overtake my weightlifting or my yoga or my taekwondo, any of those kind of things. Like, nope, I'm not going to reposition its priority yet. Someday, but not today.
But if you like dance or Zumba and that's your thing, find a class for it. If you're an at-home workout person, find some YouTube videos or some sort of program that you can follow along with and do that, because you're going to only be successful and do the activity that you enjoy doing. You're not going to show up for running when you hate it, or dance if you feel super uncoordinated and self-conscious about it. It's only going to work if you like it.
Well, and then understanding, so there's a really interesting phenomenon that happens a little bit. When you're doing something that you enjoy, your brain does not translate it as work. And so this is a conversation that I just recently had with my mom, actually, where she was talking about, she's started doing yoga and some sort of dancing every day. And she said that she doesn't feel like she's doing enough. That's what her brain keeps telling her, is I'm not doing enough physical fitness related activity, because she enjoys it. And so understanding that your brain is going to lie to you. It's going to tell you that you're not doing enough, or it's going to tell you that you don't like something, and you working to overcome that is crucial for you to be successful.
There's a common cliche that I hear all the time that's something like, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life.
It's so true.
Yeah. If you love yoga, which I used to love going to hot yoga, that time would fly by, and all of a sudden we're at the last pose and I didn't realize we've been there for 90 minutes. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah. How did I get here? Well, and even like thinking about my business, like I enjoy what I do so much that like I'm scheduling appointments with clients and with different people. And I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough work. I'm not working hard enough. And I'm like, no, you are. You're doing the work. And yet I don't feel like I'm doing the work.
Yeah. So make it fun and enjoyable. What else? Staying consistent with it and not kind of giving up on it would also be a good one. So even if you have a day where you need a break or you have some setbacks, trying to get back into it, don't just give up on it. We're going to have days where it's going to be difficult. Maybe you can't fit it in. Maybe you have to let it go for that day. But you have the chance again tomorrow to come back to it. And I think that, at least for me, that's a huge kind of guilt feeling of, I had scheduled it for today, but something else came up and I really couldn't get to it. And I now feel like I failed because I didn't get that run in, or I didn't get to weight lift today, or whatever it is. But you can pick it back up tomorrow and it'll be fine. So as long as you know that you can just pick it back up and you stay consistent with, I'll just do it tomorrow. I will come back tomorrow fresh, ready to go. It's okay. But if you sit there and I didn't get in today's run, that's going to affect tomorrow. And now I can't do tomorrow's workout because I didn't do today's workout, and you let it spiral, it's going to turn into a bigger snowball than it needs to be. And it might impact you continuing your journey.
Agreed. Well, and the pathway to success is not a straight line. Like there's ups and downs and all over the place that you can go during that time, and understanding that the time is going to pass anyway. Like you are going to continue, the days continue on. And so it's really your choice every day when you get up to choose to do your fitness routine or to choose to eat a certain way. That time is going to pass anyway. And honestly, I would much rather you have ups and downs and all over the place during that time, because there's always something to be learned during those times. Even if you're not being successful, then it might trigger a thought in you of like, well, why am I not being successful? What is going on in my life? And so it might be stress related. It might be something going on with your family, and all of those things are valid reasons that you could give up on a fitness routine. But if you stick it out, you're going to find so much more strength in that and so much more empowerment in your own ability to be successful.
We touched on it earlier as well, of kind of getting a trainer or someone to kind of watch you to make sure that you're doing things properly. But that's another one that once you start doing your routine, you want to continue to check in and make sure that your form is still good, that you're still being safe with your lifting or your yoga poses or your running form, because it can change a little bit. You might have some sort of niggle or something that's throwing off your form and you might not even know.
Yeah. Well, and even if you don't want to work with a personal trainer necessarily or do group classes or something like that, but maybe you have a workout buddy that you can maybe not even go to every workout with, and maybe that's not how like your schedules line up or anything like that, but having somebody that you can check in with. So having a friend be like, hey, can I send you a video? I was doing this move and it felt weird in my body, and will you check it out and see what you think? Like, like that is something, if you have that ability, if you have somebody who can go on that journey with you, it's really empowering.
Yeah. I film myself all the time doing things. I don't have like a big mirror or something that I can watch myself doing the exercise in real time. So I film myself almost every time that I do weightlifting. And then I might not watch it back immediately, but I will watch it back to see if I was doing this with proper form. And I did notice couple of years ago that my squat form changed over time. And instead of pressing equal pressure through both feet, I had come to the point where I would activate on one foot first. And so I'd start pressing through and I'd roll up essentially. And it got to the point where I couldn't get out of it. I could not get my mind wrapped around like, how do I press back up through both feet? And I would literally have to sit at the bottom on like a chair or something and be like, okay, how do I get up? Think about it. Think about it. Because I would want to push through. It was my left foot would want to go first. And I'd want to push through my left, start my movement, and then get up on the right.
Interesting. Oh,
I also had to drop all weights so that I could get back to like a full range of motion. Like I had to drop all weight and only body weight it so that I could, okay, this is how you go all the way down into it. And then you press all the way back up.
Retraining those muscles, the muscle memory is huge.
And the brain pathway of, okay, this is how you do it. You don't just go like this and make it work.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So then expectations. Let's talk about expectations of when you started that fitness routine. So maybe you've been going to the gym for 6 months, and at the beginning you felt like you were losing a lot of weight, you were gaining a lot of muscle, you had a lot of energy, it was feeling really, really good. And now you've hit a point where you feel like you're not losing any weight, if that's your goal, or you're not putting on any muscle, or you're kind of burnt out, and what you should do when those things come up.
So why don't we start with physical changes?
I love it.
So some physical changes that might happen in your body, we want to assume that they're going to take place immediately. As humans, we've grown accustomed to this immediate results type of mentality. If it's not working right away, it must not be working. But unfortunately, that's just not the case with changing our body composition or picking up a new skill or increasing our cardiovascular endurance. All of this takes time, and we won't see it right away. And it might feel like it's not working or that we're failing, and it's not. It's just that it hasn't happened yet.
It takes time. Yeah. A lot of times, what I find is that people's expectation is that when they start a fitness routine, they're immediately going to see the weight fall off. Like if that's what they're coming in for is immediate weight loss, that they're very frustrated when they're not seeing that fat just melt off of their body, because in, like you're speaking about, is instant gratification, and in a social media environment where we see people are showing their journeys, but they show like before and after pictures, you miss the whole journey in between that part. And it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, it could be 5, it could be 10. There's so much time that's passed, but because of the way that social media portrays it, oftentimes we miss that journey portion of it. And so kind of resetting expectations with yourself, and thinking about, if you are 300 pounds and you're wanting to lose weight, think about how long it took you to get to the point that you weigh that much. And it's going to be going backwards on that. So if you're 25 years old and it took you that long to get to 300 pounds, you're not going to be 200 pounds in a year. That's unrealistic. But setting realistic expectations with yourself, that half a pound of weight a week is a healthy goal, or 1 pound a month. A lot of people talk about, I want to lose 1 pound a week for however long. And that's just not realistic. And as your body starts to lose weight, it's going to readjust the amount of calories that you're using, the amount of muscle that you have on your body. It's going to readjust to that new norm. And so then when you reach that point, you're going to have to adjust your routine and adjust your nutrition levels, all that kind of stuff, so that you can then see more weight loss or more muscle gain from that.
That's a great point. A lot of us will start our routine and we will look at, this is the amount of nutrition we need to get our goals going. This is the amount of protein we need, the amount of fat, the carbs, all of our macros. We'll set them all and we'll start going. And eventually we will start to see those results, and then we'll see that flat line plateau.
Yeah.
And we'll say, why is it happening? And we didn't connect the dots that we need to readjust what we're eating.
Yeah.
We started this routine at 200 pounds, and your body needed this amount of energy with these specifics to be able to do it. But now we're, I don't know, 180 pounds, and this amount of energy is not going to cut it. You need to increase, decrease, whatever it is. You need to refine tune it to make it a successful routine again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So typically if your goal is to improve your body composition, so maybe you want to decrease your body fat and either increase your muscle mass, or maybe you don't want to increase your muscle mass, but it's going to take you between 4 to 12 weeks to start seeing those results coming to fruition, which 4 weeks is a month. And a lot of people don't want to believe that 21 days will get you there. It won't. I'm sorry.
No,
21
all these
days,
gimmicks online.
Yep.
It's not.
Yeah, it's going to take you about a month to start seeing those results, and maybe even longer, depending on where you started from. If you already started fairly well trained, it might take longer than those 4 weeks.
Take longer. Yeah.
Another big physical change that we want to happen immediately, but it doesn't, is the improvement in our endurance and our cardiovascular. That's a big one for me. It's because it's not sexy. It's not fun. Putting in this work to get it there is boring. I'm sorry, but it can be.
It can be. Yeah.
It can be really boring, especially so I'm rebuilding my running endurance right now. And the best way to really do it is doing sustained zone 2, which means a conversation type pace. You should be able to kind of talk and chat with somebody as you're doing that effort. And it's just so boring because you can't go online and post, oh, I went for a run, but I did it at 12 minutes per mile. Like, I mean, it's amazing. I'm so proud that I was able to go for my 3.5 mile run today. My pace was 12 minutes per mile. It probably would have been a little faster, but he's gone now. But my running buddy is this cute little furry guy, and he had to smell everything, but
cute.
But it probably wouldn't have been much faster because my goal is to increase my endurance. And in order to do that, I got to put in that hard work of slow, sustained runs. And typically it's going to take you, again, about a month, 4 to 6 weeks to start really seeing the improvements come in. It will happen a little sooner, but you won't really notice it because couple of seconds here and there is not something you're going to notice, but it will start to go up. So about 4 weeks is about where you'll start to, oh, I am increasing.
Yeah.
One we've already talked about is sleep and our sleep quality. Go listen to this podcast right here. But sleep quality, we'll see this improve a lot faster than some of the other ones. Part of that is because you're going to be exhausted, and so you're going to go to bed earlier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
another thing that I notice improves really quickly, especially when I'm diving back into a fitness routine, is the increased confidence and your self-esteem. It's a really odd phenomena that happens that you suddenly become much more confident in your body. Even if you're not noticing a ton of body changes, you physically feel different in your body when you've been consistent about doing a workout routine. And that confidence is something that can perpetuate you and keep you motivated to keep going.
Yeah. And that increased confidence happens so quickly.
So quickly.
And even from day, you start your workout and you're here, and you finish your workout and you're here. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and even I have been foam rolling. This is ridiculous. I've been only foam rolling my back twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. And I feel so confident. And I'm like, really, really, Heather, because you're doing foam rolling on the floor. I mean, it feels good, feels great, but really, that's what's boosting your confidence? Okay. Well, and there's what is the term for it? Let me think of the term. Oh, innervation. That's what it is. Okay. So just the act of physically touching your muscles. So using a foam roller or using your physical touch with your fingertips and using it. When was the last time that I touched this part of my body or touched this part? So on and so forth. But that connection is called innervation, and it happens when you're creating a literal connection between your brain and that part of your body. And so creating an awareness within your body, like that's what this muscle feels like, and I've never felt that before, and now I'm feeling that muscle because I've been doing weightlifting, because I've been doing foam rolling or running or whatever the exercise is. You're creating an awareness within your body, which is where that self-esteem and that confidence comes from. Whereas if you're out of touch with your body, like if you're purely living in your head because you never do any physical exercise or any sort of physical touch at all, like you're not going to have confidence in your experience in the entire rest of your body. But creating that connection will build that confidence that not only does my body exist as a lower portion of my brain, but also like I physically feel it, and it feels good to feel present in that part of in that part of myself.
I think another one I want to touch on is you may see some improved cognitive function as well after you start this, and you probably won't notice it right away, but pretty much within the same time frame of like changing your body composition, you're going to start to see these as well, because those first few weeks you're going to be focusing on the fact that you're sore and that you're tired and that you need to change your eating up, and maybe you need to reschedule things because you didn't get everything in. But once you've got it dialed in and you're no longer at the point where every workout makes you sore, which it shouldn't always make you too sore, but you should feel that you worked out yesterday.
Yes.
But once you've got it fine-tuned to the point where you can exist and it's a good, happy medium, you'll probably start to notice that your cognitive thinking and your ability to problem solve and all of this is a little bit better because
because
why
why is it better? I love that.
Because obviously
duh. Oh
I didn't write it down in my notes why, but yeah, because but because you've made these new neural pathways and you've increased maybe some brain capacity, or you've relearned a skill. And I think it's been proven, I'm pretty sure it's been proven, that learning something new actually allows you to kind of think more and grow more and like be smarter.
Be smarter.
Smart, right?
I smart. Muy inteligente.
Literally going back to our SMART goal. Every time you spelled it out SMART. I kept being like, you're spelling it wrong, because my brain, when I spell smart, is SMRT. From, oh my God. If you're old enough to know, it's from The Simpsons of I am so smart, SMRT. And it's that's where my brain is. I cannot spell smart by saying it out loud of SMART. It's SMRT.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, and I can never remember the R. I always go like, the heck is the R? And I'm like, it's important, but what is it?
Yeah, this is a meaningful one. I don't know why.
Yeah. Right? Oh gosh.
Oh, good.
So we covered a lot of different topics this week. Next week, we're going to be doing a little bit more of a deep dive on fat burning, how our body burns fat, and how we grow muscle. So make sure to join us and have a great week.
Thanks for joining us today at Race to Wellness. We hope it was both fun and informative for you. Make sure to join us for our next episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content.
Also, we'd love to keep the conversation going, so feel free to ask us any questions or leave us a comment down below. You can also send us an email at racetowellness2023@gmail.com and click on the links in the description to follow us on our social media platforms.